Hi there, my name's Kevin, and this is the second video in a series that my wife Jane are planning on doing that's going to speak to management of anxiety and depression, hopefully in an effort to help you to manage your life a little bit easier in having to deal with symptoms of anxiety and depression. So today what I'd like to talk about is identifying anxiety and the symptoms that go along with anxiety. It may seem obvious, but in order to deal with a problem, you need to identify what that problem is. That's the first step in dealing with a problem, is becoming aware of that problem, of course, and the consequences, but putting the correct label on that problem. Anxiety manifests itself in so many different ways. Anger, nervousness in social situations, stress at work, even very simple things like finding yourself speaking very quickly or moving around very quickly can be signs that your mind and your body are very accelerated, and it's the anxiety that is causing you to be able to act in that way. Now, sometimes it's a problem, sometimes it's not. It's not my suggestion to say that every time you're speaking fast or moving around your house very quickly that's a problem. But it's when you find yourself in a situation where your mind especially is working so quickly from the anxiety that you're not managing your decision making, your whatever situation you may be in, you're not making the correct decisions, and it's because the anxiety is consuming your mind and ultimately your body and your actions. So if you find yourself nervous in social situations, you find yourself quick to anger, you find yourself overly stressed at work, and as a result of those things, you might not be sleeping well, you might not be eating well, you find yourself constantly tense, wound up. These are indications that what you could be dealing with is anxiety. Anxiety will have a tendency to be able to shut you down mentally, physically, emotionally, eventually socially, and it's important to be able to look at those symptoms. Now this is important. Yourself, not to be able to run out and talk with anybody right away about what you're dealing with, maybe because of the embarrassment, the stigma associated with admitting that you have anxiety. But the important thing is you understanding that I've got to admit that this quite possibly could be anxiety. And as a result, I want to understand more about anxiety. And I want to do something about it because my quality of life has been affected by these symptoms, and I want to do something about it. So once you rule out any other possibility, a situational, temporary situation, physical illness, etc., and you say, I'm convinced this is anxiety, it's at that point that you can do something about it. So what I'd ask you to do this week is I'd ask you to take a look at all the symptoms that you would consider to be anxiety. As I say, being quick to anger, avoidance of certain situations, stress over an extended period of time. You would know what these symptoms are better than I would know what these symptoms are because you're living your life every day. So I would ask you to be able to, if it works, write them out on a piece of paper. Write down how long these symptoms have been happening. And when you look at that, ask yourself, is this something that has been going on a long time? And is this something that I think could be in the realm of anxiety? If you have any questions, feel free to email, post your questions. I'd be happy, myself, Jane, would be happy to answer any questions you have if you're wondering whether or not what you're dealing with is anxiety. But today, the main point of this video is to send out a message to you that the important thing to get this journey started is to identify the problem of anxiety before you can go any further. So now that may be accomplished already for a lot of you. I'm well aware I have anxiety. I have no problem admitting it. But it is the first step in the process. So if you're at that stage already, hang on. We're going to have more videos that are going to speak to management of the anxiety, and eventually we'll move on to depression. But for right now, this video today is focused on identification of anxiety, symptoms of anxiety. So get that piece of paper out, list those things on paper or at least in your mind. Ask yourself how long they've been going on, and next week we're going to continue in talking about anxiety and move on to management strategies and other thoughts about anxiety. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.